Hey, what's up, you guys? Welcome back to a long time coming podcast. It's been a minute, 3 months to be exact, probably longer than that by now. But I am back at it again, and here we fucking go. So first, this topic is going to be a little bit near and dear to my heart, mainly because it's talking about like my culture and where I'm from, and like people who really know me just know how like close-knit I am with my family. Like, as much as I hate them sometimes, and they really are just like on my ass 24/7 about certain things, they're just like a huge part of me. Like, we all in the same, like in a way, have been through like very traumatizing things together that has brought us together closer. And I think that, paired with like how culturally strong we are, has really like made for like a really unique upbringing in general. Like, I went through some bullshit, but at the same time, you know, like, I would not change a lot of things that I went through just because of the fact that it truly made me who I am today. And it truly made me like the person that constantly is trying to learn, constantly is trying to do new things, constantly challenging myself, even when like the possibility of failing is right in my face. You know, like it doesn't scare me as much, which I like look at the outside perspective, like compared to some of my peers. Unfortunately, it's not a trait that is as common as you would think. But so like I said, like this one is going to be, it really is inspired. Like, I literally just got back, left my mother's house, and I just had like a really nice conversation with her. And every time I really like converse with my mom and like talk about it, usually like the topics always go to like something going on in Honduras or something that happened in her childhood. And it's like it's like almost like I learn something new every single day that I have a conversation with my mother. And it's almost like she probably didn't feel as comfortable sharing with me these more like morbid and like pessimistic views of like life because of what her country taught her. So she didn't want to like I guess this is the way I interpret it, is that she didn't want to like poison me into thinking that like the world is that shitty. But instead, like, she kind of sheltered me away from that. And then I guess now as an adult, she's like, okay, well, she can handle the truth, you know. So I think it's like it's a real big blessing for me, because I don't know how I would have like dealt with the realities of what goes on back at home as a child than I do as an adult. But one of these conversations we were really discussing is because my brother is currently in our home country of Honduras, and he's been there quite a while. And unfortunately, it was circumstances by his own doing that got him to where he's at. So like, he was deported, and not even gonna get really into that much, but like, you know, obviously he was American-born citizen. I'm sorry, he was he wasn't American-born citizen. He came over when he was very, very young. And like, me and my sister were American-born citizens, and that's like the only ones in our families that are American-born. Everybody else is originally from Honduras, and he was one of the younger ones that came over, and so he was illegal. And then in his teenage and his youth, he made a lot of very questionable decisions by his own doing, which put him into a place where he was deported a couple times actually. So yeah, I'm not even gonna dive into that one much. So he's currently in Honduras, and it's kind of bringing back a lot of things for my mother, especially because of the fact that it's been so long since she's been in her home country, but there's so many impactful memories that happened to her that is kind of having to like it's kind of like she's reliving it, because she sees my brother there, and she just can imagine the worst because she was in the worst. So of course, like, now she talks a little bit. I think that's another reason why she talks more about her home country and like where she came from, is because she wants us to understand the magnitude of the dangers and like the situations that Honduras has that we don't have here. And so in this conversation, we were talking about my brother and him having a job, and how he just got this job, and it's really good because Honduras, the worst thing to do is like be bored, because there's always something to do. There's always like something that you can get yourself into, whether it's labor or, you know, some type of like money you can make. you know, he's usually like bored as hell at home, but instead now he's like putting his energy into something that's more productive for himself. And he like got this job, and I was like, dude, that's awesome. And she was saying how he got a truck from this job, and like they were like providing him transportation and gas, and I was like, that's fucking rad. And then she goes, do you know how much he's getting paid? And I'm like, no, like I'm thinking about, of course I am not like dumb. I know that it's not going to be nowhere near the like what like a US citizen would make in like obviously the United States, or like anybody can make in the United States basically. But she then tells me that he is making $25 USD. Obviously that doesn't translate into lempiras, which lempiras is the currency of Honduras, but it's like it like converted is $25 a week, and it just blew my freaking mind. I was just like flabbergasted, and all I can think about is like I'm trying to calculate and figure out, even like on a frugal life, because Honduras is nothing like here. It's like it's practically a third world country. If I'm not mistaken, it is a third world country considered still. So like food is not something that is like common. And she was it was actually pretty funny, because the reason why she was like kind of telling me about the $25 a week is she was just saying how broke she was, and this is why we had to like send him money. And she said that he FaceTimed her today, and he was eating I'm not sure what they're called in English, but they're called what the hell are they called? Hutas are like apparently like this, almost like a snail like circular crab shell exterior with like a mushy sort of like snail like animal on the inside. And so like she would like basically they like make a soup out of this apparently, where they like put it's almost like a seafood soup is what they like classify, but they break the shell. And my mom said that he was just saying how like delicious it was, and how like he didn't expect it to be this good. And this entire time my mother is in tears. She is crying her eyes out, because in her mind it's like her baby is eating this disgusting thing. Mind you, my mother absolutely disdains seafood of any sort. So this may be why like have quite a bit to do with why she was overreacting as hard as she was. But she absolutely fucking hates seafood, and so she's just looking at her baby eating this snail ass soup and she's like dying, and on the inside like just feels like she fails as a mother and all this shit. That was like the funniest part about the conversation, because she said that she continued to call two other family members and cry to them about what her son was eating, and they were both like, oh my god, that's like a delicacy, that's amazing, like that's such a good soup and we love that, it tastes amazing. And my mom is just like in tears because no one is fucking understanding her apparently. So like, but it's like that. It's like basically these like snail like crabs that you can get, like they basically like wash offshore of the ocean, and you pick them up, and you like almost like sand diggers, and I'm thinking it's very similar to sand diggers, if not like hermit crabs, but they don't have like the actual crab legs. It's more of just like a membrane type texture. It looks absolutely awful in my opinion, and I like seafood, so that's coming from someone who fucks with some weird shit, and to me that shit looks fucking gross. So like that's something that they have to eat, and like they really can't, that there's no such thing as like going to the store and like getting whatever you want. Everything is kind of like you hunt it, you like bring it home, you like figure the shit out, you either work your ass off to pay for food, but like nothing comes cheap, nothing comes free. It's all like a dog-eat-dog world, every man for himself, survival of the fittest type environment. And she like mentioned something that really made me like think, it like really honestly inspired me to even like come back to podcasting and kind of like put something else out there into the world, because of the fact of how eye-opening this was for me. But she said, you know, it's one of those things where they're generous people in Honduras, it's just, you can't give what you don't have. And she was saying, like, you know, it's, you could see someone starving and, like, you want to give them an egg, but you genuinely don't even have an egg for yourself and your family, so you can't. And I think that's, like, a huge, like, it's such a, like, overlooked statement. Like, you can't give, not because you don't want to, but because you don't have anything to give. And that's, like, I can't even imagine that. Like, as someone living in the U.S. who has been able to, like, give when I can, whether it's to friends or family or to, like, someone in need, even if it's, like, a random donation, whatever it may be, like, I have the opportunity to do that because I have. Even when I don't have, like, I can give someone, like, food, like, canned food. Like, I always have canned food at the house that can be given. Like, there's always things to give. And I'm always been the type of person that, like, give the shirt off my back. So, like, it's always been an option for me. And it's almost insane to think that not everyone has that option. And it just, like, really helps me take a step back in my life and just realize how grateful, like, we should be as a society and as people. I mean, at the end of the day, we think that we have to absolutely, like, have something huge in our lives happen to be grateful for. Like, oh, I got this promotion, I'm so grateful. But it should be as simple as just being grateful for, like, the water, being grateful for, like, a home or warm air, like, being grateful that I'm in a car, that I'm driving with gas. Like, I'm literally getting from point A to point B in one of the most efficient ways that not many people can say, unfortunately. And I know this, like, and I've known this all my life. It's not like I just heard this one story my mother told me and I all of a sudden, like, started to realize that people should be grateful. My best friend and I, like, really talk about the importance of being grateful, and not just being grateful about, like I said, the bigger things in life, but even the smallest things. And so she really helped me kind of come to terms with the thoughts that I was having about being grateful, and about being able to just kind of look back and just be happy for what, like, life has provided you thus far. Because at the end of the day, you can't really help anything. Nothing is, like, under your control, right? Like, unfortunately, we're not Thanos. Like, we don't have the fucking gauntlet. Like, we can't come back in time and redo this shit all over again. Like, this is it. Nothing is controllable. No one knows your fate. So why not just fucking do the best you can with it and just be fucking, like, happy for what the little things life gives you? It sounds fucking insane and a lot easier said than done, but just listening to these stories of my mother talking about just, like, what it's like to be, like, of wealth in Honduras. We, like, whenever she was talking to me about the hudes, she's told me about, like, how the process of, like, cooking them. And so my mom is a little technology ignorant, so I was pulling up these videos of people cooking them, and she's like, oh my god, where are you looking at this? And I'm just like, the internet exists, Mom. And I, like, was pulling up these videos, and, like, we were watching, like, people actually cook with them to see what it's like, and like, just the process. And then in this video, of course, it was they were actually in El Salvador, is where they like, this video was shot, where they were like making this dish, and they had a three compartment sink is what it's called. I don't know why it took me so fucking long to think of that, god damn it. But it was a 3 compartment sink, like most, like, restaurants have, but it was, like, made out of complete tile and concrete. Like, of course, it's nothing like a sterling silver fucking, like, sterling silver, the fuck, stainless steel, like, 3-piece kitchen, like, kitchen sink. It's straight up, like, the most primalistic built thing. And she was just saying, like, that right there means you have money. And I'm like, what? This is what, like, I could build this. I could go to Lowe's right fucking now and build this rig for maybe $60. Like, maybe $60. And that's, like, the like pretty decent ass material, because tiles are very cheap in itself, and then a bag of concrete, it's not that bad. So you really have to create that. And then the faucet was from like the side of their home. Like, it wasn't like they built this faucet system. Like, it was literally like barely dripping water, which is something else that was bizarre to me. My mother told me, like, there's no such thing as a faucet that just like gushes water like it does in America. Like, it's very sparingly, which is of course obviously more. It's better for conservation, but still, it was one of those things that you just really take for granted. And so, like I said, it just, like, seeing this process and seeing what it means to be wealthy, and like versus in America, like being wealthy is having the newest car, the biggest house, like the most technology, the blingiest jewelry. It's so superficial, and it just kind of is very eye-opening for me. And I'm just like grateful that I had a mother that like went through the worst of the worst so that I can live the best of the best, to be honest with you. Like, I just can't be nothing but fucking grateful. That's gonna be the goddamn name of this podcast, is gratefulness. It's just like a word that's very underappreciated, and in this podcast overused, but it's something that like is really good to put in perspective once in a while. And I feel like it's made me a happier person, to be honest with you. A lot of times when I'm feeling down, very recently especially, like, I am able, like, not even me, because it's like when you're like having doubtful thoughts, or you're just like in a very dark place in your life, you don't really control much of the outcome of your thoughts. It's literally like your brain just takes over and just fills it with bullshit and negativity and god awfulness. So but it's like to the point now where like even my subconscious is like thinking positively, and it's like, oh, this could be so much worse. I say that to myself so many times a day. It's ridiculous. Like, at my job now, when I complain, I'm just like, oh, fuck, it could be so much worse. Or like when I'm in traffic, it could be so much worse. Like, it really could. In any situation in your life, like that, for me, and it's not for everyone, of course. Like, some people can't just say that and like be it and believe it and like put forth that energy and it come out into the world. But I think it's just like I wouldn't say it's like a level of maturity. It's just like a level of thought that you get into where you're just like, fuck it. Like, there's nothing in life you can change. There's nothing you can really alter, and then there's little things that you can do in life to be able to kind of like steer your life in the right direction, like, you know, getting an education, or, you know, whichever, like building, like, you know, taking a workshop, or, you know, getting like learning a skill of some sort, whether it's like through education or like just learning it on your own. You know, it's like stuff like that will absolutely help you advance in life a little bit further ahead than most people. But at the end of the day, you know, anything can happen in between that time. Like, you can get into a car wreck, you know, and even like, not saying like you have to get hurt in a car wreck or anything like that, but like you can get into a car wreck and then like total your car, and you have a major financial setback. And that shit, if anyone's ever experienced that, you know, like how that can feel, like your world is like caving in when you have something that huge happen in your life, and you like are physically not hurt, but you have to, like, a financial burden to me is just as fucking hard as a physical like pain, honest to God. Like, I don't understand, and this is like very, not, I want to say off topic, but I'll never be able to understand when people say like money can't buy you happiness, because in a way it can't buy you happiness, but it can buy you peace of mind almost, you know. I mean, you're like, you could still be depressed and have all your bills paid. Like, that's not taking away from people that are depressed and their bills are paid, but like having a huge financial burden hits you. And I feel like everyone, to be sure, everyone has experienced like something financially difficult that like almost turned the tables for you, where you had to like fight or flight and just be like, you know what, like, I gotta boss the fuck up, or I gotta keep it, or I gotta like fucking roll under. Like, you know what I mean? Like, people make their choices. And unfortunately, those choices can either A, lead to someone, like, becoming a better person and making their way out of a situation and really being able to appreciate the things that they have in life. Or B, it's like a person who goes for a flight and just decides to give up on everything, unfortunately. And those, like, unfortunately are, like, some homeless people out here. I've like, had conversations with that have told me that they just, it got too much and they just gave up. Everyone reacts to it differently. There's nothing wrong with how one person, like, reacts versus the other person. And the point is that we all, like, deal with our shit on our own. And I think that financially, if you are of peace of mind, it just is like one less brick on your shoulders that you have to carry. And that brick was like the heaviest one on your back. And I'm sure some people don't even have to fucking deal with this, honest to God. Like, I'm sure people truly just, like, have no financial, like, I guess, troubles, and they never have to deal with that. But those people are unhappy in their own ways. You know, there's no one that's ever 100% like happy. Like, everyone has their own shit, and it's just being able to admit it and being able to, like, come to terms with it and being able to work on it that puts you like one step ahead of everyone else, in my opinion. Like, even if you're physically and mentally not ahead of everyone else, I believe that if you are knowledgeable about what you, like, have going on, then that puts you a step ahead, because there's some people in society that aren't at that point where they can admit to themselves what they feel and who they are as a person. They just kind of, like, hide within their own thoughts and just pretend like everything is, like, hunky-dory, and it's never correct, honestly. I mean, I don't know. Well, that's it for me. I just kind of, like I said, wanted to jump on after, like, speaking to my mother. I just felt compelled to, like, put this one in the memory bank, because it was just one of those things, like, when I have a very, like, a flush of emotion nowadays, it happens, it's so rare for me that, like, something, like, it makes me nostalgic, and I've been so nostalgic recently, which that's in part to people in my life right now that are just truly making me happy and truly, like, being there for me emotionally. And I think that's a huge part of the reason that's helped me out of the darkest, like, pits of hell, to be honest with you. So, you know, like I said, it just is like when something, it just touches me and I feel like I learned something. And even if, like, I already knew how to be grateful for things, but I still feel like I learned something new about myself and how I'm, like, coming to terms with a lot of things in life right now, that I just feel like I need to put this, because honestly, guys, I looked at my fucking podcast or listened to my podcast and I can barely remember the shit that I say. Like, it's a problem. So it's just, like, one of those things that I just feel that needs to be out there for myself. It's one of those. And by the way, I've recently discovered that I may have a couple people in my personal life that may have discovered this podcast, which is insanely awkward. But if you happen to stroll through this podcast and you know me, and you may not know me personally enough, and you kind of feel weird about listening to shit that I'm saying because you don't even fucking know me as a person, or maybe you do know me as a person, and this is just, like, something that you strolled through and kind of want to learn a little bit more. But I just want to reiterate what this podcast is about. I had a traumatic childhood in a very weird way, I guess you can say. And for some reason, the way some people cope with it is that they, well, you know, me included, is we kind of dissociate away from the situation. And a problem with dissociating away from a situation is that you tend to bottle things in, and you tend to throw memories on the back burner. So your subconscious is almost trying to protect you. So it, like, it almost, like, deletes the files that they know is affecting you. You know what I mean? mind wipes, to be honest with you. So that's a big problem in my life, because sometimes my brain doesn't know when to stop wiping. So a lot of times I forget a lot of things when I'm not in the moment. So if I'm not constantly like thinking about the memory, I will forget it. So this podcast is for me. It's not for anyone else, to be quite honest. It is for me, because I want to be able in 5 years down the road, and I don't care if I put one fucking podcast a year, as long as my future me can go back to this with whomever or by myself, whatever the situation may be. I want to be able to think back on these times, these days where I'm having revelations, the moments where I'm losing 70 like plus pounds, and how my feelings are about it, or even like the darkest moments where I just feel